Welcome to Linkronicity, where your journey and destiny link. I'm Stacey, Kumagai, Linkologist, and I'm here to help you link your life. How are you, lovely souls? How was your week? It was quite a week, wasn't it? A lot happened all over the world, but a lot happened. And we were feeling the shift of everything we're coming after. All of the transitions from 8-8 Lionsgate, dealing with the fact Jupiter's still in retrograde, dealing with the full moon, and above all things, not just any full moon, a super moon, 120 degrees. So we're dealing with the 3 vibration energy, and we're looking at what those transitions meant for us as we try to step into dealing with our truth, really walking through the portal of change and looking at this new paradigm shift. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with all of this territory, you can go back and watch my other videos explaining what this actually really meant for us. I did an inner healing series, parts 1 through 4, and I will put links in the description box below in case you miss it. It's really, really important to look at those videos and actually do the work, do the journal prompts and do the homework in order to understand what this video means. Now, I was called upon the collective to show up again, this time to interpret what we do now after we walked through that whole week, which was pretty intense. We had a lot of loss, we had monsoons, we had explosions, we had a lot of people dying, we had like so much going on, right? A lot of different things happening. And we're turning different corners in different realities now as we look at what the world looks like as we come off the end of 2022, step into 2023. And for those of you who did watch the 8-8 Lionsgate video, you know that 2023 is all about this 7 vibration, which is about seeking education, knowledge, information, getting the truth. And that's going to do a lot of deep probing, a lot of deep digging to get to what that truth is, because a lot of things are going to be shifting all at once. So what does that mean for this video? This video means we're going to be looking at some journal prompts. So go ahead and get your notebook and pen and electronic device, or however you take notes. Now, these last set of journal prompts are going to be really, really key in order to make sense with the previous 4 videos that I did on the Inner Healing Series 2.0. So go ahead and grab your stuff, and I'll be back with you in just a sec. Okay, lovely souls, are you ready? Are you ready to step into this new energy? Are you ready to step into this next level of deep digging, excavation, beyond the beyond? What we're dealing with now is we're going to be dealing with the quantum leap shift in an alternate universe, meaning our acceptance level at this point in time for our human beings is to accept that here we are going to be entering 2023, and yes, we are going to still be living with this pandemic. And yes, we're dealing with a bunch of other things like monkeypox and everything else, right? A lot of different things happening, and drought and global warming and no water and blah, 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 and our food supply, and like a lot of stuff's going on. So in order for us to step into it gracefully, we kind of have to come to terms with who we are right now, who we became in the last 2 years, what do we acknowledge as our truth, and really redefining our place right now in who we are and what we believe, and trying to sift through all of it to really get to not just the world's truth, but our truth too. A lot of that's going to have to deal with emotion and dealing with feelings and our mental health and well-being and our physical realities, and looking at this new virtual world of how we relate to people, what our communication styles are going to be, how we actually express ourselves in terms of being authentic. That's where a lot of our truth digging and our truth seeking for 2023 is going to end up. So we might as well start now. And of course, we might as well start with ourselves. That's where it begins, right? It begins with us. So, 4 journal prompts. What are we going to be looking at? We're going to be looking at death and rebirth, endings, and new beginnings. And I'll start there. We're going to do journal prompt number 1. I'm not going to jump ahead. Just journal prompt number 1. Answer this question, please. Honestly, truthfully. As you acknowledge endings and new beginnings, how do you address your own death and rebirth? How do you address your own death and rebirth? What does that mean to you? What do you acknowledge? More importantly, how do you feel about it? I ask this key question, how do you feel about death and rebirth, endings and beginnings? Because it is the end of an era of sorts. It is the end of the world we once knew. We are trying to accept and come to terms with, yeah, we're going to be living with this for a while. Now, we knew this intellectually. We tried to digest it. But so many of us are holding out with hope and change and thinking that, yeah, we'll be over it. Well, we're not over it. That's our reality, right? So we have to come to a level of acceptance, and that begins with self-acceptance, and how we move forward with it in that acceptance, and acknowledging where we ended and began, where parts of our lives died and parts of our lives that were reborn. Now, I know it sounds really heavy, but it's true. Now, for those of you who believe that you haven't changed, that's a truth you're going to have to deal with. The truth is you have changed. You've had to pivot somehow, some way, whether it's how you work or how you go to school or how you relate to people, how you test and retest, and how you isolate and how you quarantine and how you put in safety protocol and how you socialize and how you try to still live your life, how to avoid massive crowds or super spreading events, or how you maybe have even more kindness in your heart or acknowledgement and sensitivity because you realize everybody else is going through the same thing too, right? We have a common thread there. So as we look at death and rebirth, as you journal prompt your answer to how you're redefining that, coming to terms with death and rebirth on your terms now and what you are looking at is really all about your truth. So what's your truth, lovely souls? What's your truth in acknowledging death and rebirth? What's your truth in acknowledging endings and beginnings? And what's your truth in how you've grieved the old life that you don't have anymore? How have you acknowledged this change within yourself? Have you accepted it? Are you still wrestling with it? Do you have resentment for it? Have you applied forgiveness for fumbling and as you try to navigate the world? Have you developed patience for yourself in your own transition and change? Are you a little kinder and gentler in how you show up with life and relating to others, your communication? How's that changed for you? Now, I'm asking this of you as an individual. But what have you also acknowledged via the work that you do? If you are a corporation who has obviously pivoted, how are you showing up better for your employees? How are you looking at wellness, well-being, mental health, diversity, equity, and inclusion? How are you looking at really being an inclusive workspace dealing with the hybrid situation, people who feel uncomfortable coming back, people who, are struggling with that, not out of fear, but out of maybe their new terms of how they choose to live their life, their new boundary setting. If we're looking at death and rebirth from what was familiar, dealing with the unfamiliar, and then dealing with the transition that actually happened, what we're doing is we're really understanding our pivoting moments. But why we're doing this journal prompt right now is because 2023 is going to be even more intense in terms of what we seek. And part of that is truth. Part of that is coming to terms with said truth. Part of that is coming to terms with how we live our life. Acknowledging that we're still in this. What if the pandemic goes until 2025 or beyond? Like, how is this really changing your life and lifestyle? How is this really changing about your consciousness? How is it changing about how you view life moving forward? If we acknowledge our death and rebirth and we look at it in these terms, what we're really doing is coming to grips with our new reality, our paradigm shift, our alternate timeline, because we're not on the same timeline anymore, right? 2018, 19 is almost like a distant memory compared to what we're living right now. It's not the same world. So as we look at this journal prompt is really key for you to acknowledge within yourself, accept within yourself, and be aware of where you stand on that. So give it some thought. Pause the video if you need to actually contemplate, or come back to this and revisit this journal prompt. That's journal prompt number 1. Journal prompt number 2. We are dealing with how we rebuild our self-esteem. Why do I say that? Rebuild. Rebuild because we all got knocked down. We were all Chumbawamba song, right? We got knocked down, we got up again. But when we got up again, we got up a little differently because we weren't the same. So whether that was a blow to your ego, pride, self-esteem, on the control factor you thought you had over your life, things that changed that were not in your control, looking at how you acknowledge your own identity, looking at, here's the key, the commonalities you share with the collective, with the world, and the differences that make you you, that you celebrate, and how those said differences are shaping you in this new world. So your journal prompt is, journal prompt number 2, how is your own acknowledgement of your commonalities and similarities in this together, past life, present life, shaping how you dissect your differences. So how are your commonalities and similarities? This is to yourself, former self, present self, like what's still there. I'm helping you pick up the pieces, basically. Acknowledge what's there. How are you seeing these commonalities of what's staying and versus what's going? Also, another dimension, what common threads you share with your inner circle right now. Your family, your friends, your work, place, your neighborhood, your community. I say this because in the pandemic, a lot of people shed a lot of skin, and they shed a lot of their circles based on everybody else's ascension, transformation. Not out of meanness or anything like that. It was just people change, things change, people move away, things happen, life changes on a dime, lifestyles change on a dime. People are having to take care of, elderly loved ones or sick ones, people with long COVID, like all these different things. People are working differently. They're shopping differently. They're going to school differently, right? We've had all this stuff. So it's going to change your circle. So as you acknowledge within yourself what's still common and still familiar and your similarities to who you were versus who you are now, and also what that means in terms of your circle and what common threads you still share, what's changed, and then celebrating the differences, because we're not judging anybody, right? A lot of people had to pivot and shift and do whatever they had to do for survival. A lot of people had to do different things. People had to move. People had to change things. People had to leave jobs. People had to move geographically. People had to change their life. That's just the truth. So as you look at these differences and you acknowledge in your journal prompt, what are the common things, the similar things, what are the differences, helps you see clearly on paper with your own hand what it is that you know to be true. I ask you this question now, the tail end of 2022, because that is going to shift again in 2023 as we adapt, as we shift, as we change. Because in a 7-seeker year, we're looking for taking our acquired wisdom forward. And not everybody's going to do that. We're going to be pushed to do it, but there are going to be those who are going to be dragged through it because they were trying to resist the change so much. So having your own awareness about this now will help you see where it is, at least a springboard to where you're going to go, even if you don't know where that is, of what you know to be true about yourself, your life, your circles, and all of that. If you're a company, that's going to change also too in how you communicate. So what common goals do you still carry? Do you have common threads of this mission that resemble your former identity of your company? What's changed and how are you pivoting and being different? Because you had to, not just for survival, but also because the market's changed, supply chain has changed, everything's changed, right? Inflation's changed things. So as you look at these changes, you have to be very mindful of the shift as well, the contrast between the differences and the similarities, and what's staying, what's going, what's changing, what's pivoting, what's not. So that's journal prompt number 2, because your self-esteem, your confidence, and that means consumer confidence, business confidence, as an everyday walking pedestrian human being confidence, can only be rebuilt on what it is we're sure of that we're going forward with. So that's why journal prompt number 2 is really, really important. Think about that for a second. It's huge. Everything in this video is huge. Okay. Journal prompt number 3. I'm being told that we have to redefine courage. We have to redefine what that means for us. We have to redefine where we get our inner strength from and how we face our fears moving forward. Here's the catch. And how we do it in a world of ambiguity. Yeah. 2023, we're not going to know a lot if we don't do this work now. Because as seekers of knowledge, and everybody at a different level with their acquired wisdom and where they choose to take it, how they choose to apply it, is going to look differently. So as you show up, as a person, as a business, as you show up, your courage to navigate a lot of uncharted territory is going to be key in how you confidently step forward with said courage to do what it is you're going to be doing. If you don't know where it comes from, it's going to be very, very hard to work with the energy, because things are going to be changing. And if you don't have assured footing, it's going to be a little more challenging, a little more difficult. We don't want things to be more challenging or difficult. We want to be able to manage it, right? We want to be able to have our stress management, our everything under, a very calm state, zen being, instead of being scattered and chaotic as we were in 2020. 2020 threw us for a loop, right? Our world turns upside down. So everybody was panicking, scattering. We can't have that same mindset in 2023 when we have even less information. We're going to have some new information, but we're going to be seekers of information. How to problem solve, create solutions for our changed world of the reality we have to accept and digest now, right? Because things aren't going away and new things are coming in. So, we've got monkeypox and who knows what else, right? Got all these different things. So, again, a lot of different new pieces of the puzzle we're trying to put together. And if we step forward with our courage, with a lot of unknowns, at least if we have our foundation of truth from death and rebirth and endings and beginnings, and dealing with our self-esteem and where that comes from, and our understanding the similarities and what the commonalities are, and then acknowledging the differences and the different way we have to work with said energy, and then dealing with the courage, now we at least can take a step forward with what we know. And that's going to be huge in a world of what we don't know. That's number 3. So, courage. Where does your courage come from today? And how has it changed over the last 2 years? These are 2 journal prompts. And number 3, part 3 of this journal prompt of courage. Where are you going to pull your courage from stepping forward in 2023? Where's that going to come from? How are you going to build upon it? I'm rapid firing questions right now to whatever resonates with you. Pick up whatever clicks, okay? And use that and expand on that journal prompt. That's going to help you a lot. Okay, deep breath. Okay, 4th and final piece of this. Lovely souls. Guilt. Now, guilt is a big thing. Guilt. Guilt's going to come into play in 2023 based on the new boundaries you set. So, yes and no. May look like simple things today. But as we navigate our new world, we're changed people. And being changed people now puts us in a place of having to acknowledge what our new boundaries are. Old friends, family, co-workers, jobs, situations, community. People may try to put us in a box of like, oh, well, this person is this way. And this person thinks this way. And this person, blah, blah, blah. You have labels all over you, whether you realize it or not. A lot of it you didn't even ask for. People just decide to label you a certain way. And they assume you're going to stay this way forever. That's not the truth. You're changing every day. And in this pandemic, we've put this turbo mode of change into a big, big place. And a lot of people have shed layers of skin, right? They've made a lot of changes and transitions. They've changed their entire worlds. Geographically, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Changing jobs, changing friends, changing lifestyles, changing blah, 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 changing how you show up and do everything every day. It's very changed. So as you set your boundaries, the key is to not feel guilt for being a new person. And if you're a company, same thing. People may have known you with your branding as XYZ. Well, but now because of everything we've been through, and with inflation and the economy, and so much job loss and consumer confidence and all these things, you're going to have to be looking at not feeling guilty for not being the way everybody perceived you, and take a confident leadership role now. Instead of following trends, being the trend. That's really key. Because, how should I say this? Marketing plans are never set in stone. Any good marketing plan is never set in stone because everything changes on a dime, right? Markets change, seasons change, all of that changes. And the pandemic has changed you. I don't care who you are, it's changed you. And if you're a company, it's changed you. You're going to be needing to take responsibility now for your positive changes. You're also going to be having to take responsibility for anything you've done wrong and take ownership of it. And that means being proactive in how you're going to improve. So remove the guilt for the change and do apologize for anything you did wrong, and own what that is, and now be the example. It's like, maybe you didn't handle the pandemic well. Maybe your external messaging was not on point. Maybe you could have been more sensitive to certain situations. Maybe you didn't handle your employee well-being the way that you should have. Maybe you weren't functioning from that place, the bigger picture place. Well, now's your chance. Now's your chance to step up and change. Now's your chance to really be a fully diversity, equity, and inclusion, equal opportunity employer, acknowledging mental health, physical health, emotional health, people needing to work a certain way, and being okay with that. You have to support that. It's important to support that, because if you're not a people-first organization, you've missed the whole point, right? So now's a chance to really release old beliefs which don't fit anymore. Adopt and change, adapt and gather the new beliefs. Set new boundaries, new standards, be better. And that goes for people as well as businesses. So now's our chance to be better, lovely souls. Be better. And acknowledge that we weren't operating at full capacity before, and that we were floundering and not really doing everything to perfection. We can't. Okay, I've got a secret for you. Psst. No one's perfect. We're works in progress, and we will be till the end of time. So now's your chance. Set the boundaries. So journal prompt number 4. What boundaries, new boundaries, are you setting? How do you acknowledge enforcing them as you step forward in the future? What new principles are you setting in place? What core foundation of values have not changed? And what makes you who you are? And what are you going to stick with in said boundaries? And what guilt are you releasing over not being perfect? And what responsibility are you taking as you step forward to improve? That's a lot. And I know I just rapid fired those, so you may have to rewind and play. But that's a channel from the collective. That's the channel from the divine. That's a channel to acknowledge what this energy means. So, lovely souls, as we review what you learned in Inner Healing Series 2.0, Ascension to the Next Level, as we work through this past super week of energies of all kinds of transit changes with Lionsgate, supermoon, full moon, all of that, and the month of abundance of what we're expected, an abundance of change. This is where we actually interpret and address death and rebirth, endings and beginnings. What do those mean actually for us? How do we look at where we're gathering our self-esteem now as we acknowledge our differences and similarities, commonalities, things that were from the past that we're bringing forward, and things that we're leaving behind? as we move forward. How are we dealing with our inner courage? How are we facing our fear with this new courage? Where is it coming from? And how are we developing it as we step forward in an ambiguous world and navigate uncharted territory? And lastly, how are we releasing guilt? How are we taking responsibility and ownership? How are we actually setting new boundaries? Yes and no. And enforcing said change without apologizing for that, saying, this is the new me. My safety and well-being is this. These are my new rules. This is how I'm going to show up in life. And that's okay. We're all changing. So this is what this journal prompting exercise is about. I look forward to hearing from you as to what this means for you and what you discovered about yourself. And if you have to go back through the Inner Healing Series 2.0, parts 1 through 4, please do. And then reassess with all these 4 journal prompts. And that'll help you really, really, truly dive deeper and go, whoa, look at what I just realized. So I can self-actualize in this 2023 year that's coming ahead. I'm giving you plenty of time, lovely souls, to get ready. This is your chance. This is your time. This is your moment to acknowledge all of these changes and accept them with an open heart and an open mind and deep forgiveness and compassion for yourself as you're trying to be gentle going through this time. There's a lot of change happening, and there's more coming. I'm telling you right now, there's more coming. Wait till September. It's like whoosh as we finish out the rest of this year. So I hope that helps. I hope that helps, and I hope that this calling upon the collective energy, acknowledging what is at hand and what is in front of us right now is really helpful for you as you make your transition to your next chapter. I'm Stacey Kumagai, your Linkologist, here to help you link your life. Be sure to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Linkronicity, blogspot.com, and go to Linkronicity.com for private coaching sessions, whether you're a business or just an individual. I do all kinds of healing and recalibration, reinterpreting of energies for you personally on your custom unique journey, because no 2 journeys are alike, and really, really helping you zero in on your short-term and long-term objectives as you craft your new beginning, your new future, and as we approach the new year that's coming ahead. Sending you so much love and light, lovely souls. Be gentle with yourself, be gentle with each other, and take on this huge abundance transition quantum leap, mindfully. It's important, and you matter, and all of this matters, and well-being matters right now. So take your time and know that doing the work is going to be helping you tremendously as you craft your next chapter and new beginning. Thank you so much. I have gratitude in my heart, lovely souls. Have a beautiful, blessed day. Namaste.